Hello, guys. Hello, guys. Welcome to a... Maybe I'll get this done. Hey there, guys. For Preptober this year, I'm going to be trying something a little different, so I'm going to be bringing you guys along with me. I have decided that I am going to be doing a bunch of different prep methods for writing a story throughout Preptober, and then during Nano, writing the story for Nano. And I have no idea how this is going to work out, but we're going to see what ones really help, which ones don't seem to help, and all kinds of good fun stuff. And so, yeah. So we are starting off with the Snowflake Method. I will link this PDF file down below. I don't know if this is the exact one. I know it is based off of the one by like Randy, oh god, what's his last name? I can't think of it right now. But this is one that I was sent. Someone in one of my writing streams was like, hey, I'm trying this. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of that. Please send it to me. So they did. And so the Snowflake Method is basically you're going to start your story like a snowflake. You're going to start with just like a little piece, like one line, little bit. I'll use a triangle, kind of triangle. And then you slowly start branching off. And so you start with like the triangle or a cross or however you want to start it, and then in the end you end up with a snowflake because you keep building onto it. I hope that was a good description. So in this first Preptober trying a bunch of different things series, we are going to be filling out all 12 of these sheets that are for the Snowflake Method. Each one is like a different piece of it. The dogs are going bonkers out there. So each one has a different piece, and I'll kind of show some of these as I'm working on it. This one starts with like, you start with a one-sentence summary of your idea, and you just keep going. And so this is a whole worksheet that lets you go through and drop your pages, as you should. Kind of lets you go through and go step by step through this method and write it out. How about we jump right in to the Snowflake Method. So this actually took a lot less time than I thought it would. So we're going to kind of go over how I felt about while doing this. I sat down, I went through all 12 pages, I did all 12 sheets, and filled everything out. There's a few sections that had little notes that I might not have filled out, but I filled out most everything else. So we start off with write a one-sentence summary of your idea, which I did. And then write a one-sentence summary about the setting. I did both of those, and that's pretty self-explanatory, and what I'm writing is a aftermath of an apocalypse set in my home state of Maine, because I think it works so good. Plus I love Maine, but you know. And then step 3 was writing a one-sentence summary for each main character, and this is actually 4 of the 5 that I think are going to have point of views in this series. I don't like adding a lot of point of views, but for something that is this dense and dark and there's so much going on. I feel like there needs to be quite a few. Plus, we have these 4 people all come from different places in this, in the state, I guess. And the other one that I have is tied in with this first one, but they also have 2 different outlooks of things going on in this area that they are. I filled out these, I kind of filled out the sentences, but I was like, the sentences just seem weird. I'm like, what do I do? So I kind of made like a hook line for each. So I think that's where the next, not the next section, but further on, step 6 will come in. It has me creating a 1-page character profile for each character. And this really helps start solidifying these hook sentences, which I've had these characters roaming around in my head for a while now anyway, so I kind of had a good feel on them, but this definitely helped me dive a little bit deeper. But we'll get to that. That is step 6. Step 4 was go back to your 1-sentence summary and expand it to a paragraph. So I expanded it to a little paragraph, and I was like really like poetic but riddle-like while writing these. Couldn't tell you why. But I guess that's just part of the process of, you know, you're given, go back to step 1, expand your 1-sentence summary to a paragraph. I did that. I took my 1-sentence summary about an apocalypse and made it into a paragraph. And so I think this part is going to be very to each their own of how you want to write it and how you're going to do it. And for me, it just came off very riddle-like, very trying to get you hooked on it, almost like movie trailer-esque, of like, in a world where the apocalypse happened 7 years ago, people are still trying to survive. I couldn't tell you why I wrote this like this, because normally I'm very like info dumpy when I'm trying to do these things, and this one I was just like, mysterious. Let's get interesting. So step 5 is go back to step 2 and expand your setting description to 1 paragraph. So because my setting is Maine, I just sat here and wrote things about Maine, of how summers are hot and winters are freezing. People know how to hunt in the woods and fish in the lakes here. And I feel like, even though that isn't like a very colorful description, I feel like this description works the best in the fact of why it is in Maine. People in Maine are usually at least familiar with hunting and fishing. 90% of the state is forest. So a lot of people here do know a lot of these things, and that comes into play a lot with survival of, okay, now you don't have the grocery store where you can go to, you have to figure out food a different way. And so a big part of this series is them surviving on plants and animals and similar things. Step 6 was onto characters. And for each character you had name, age, occupation, values, motivations, goals, their conflict, an epiphany, relations, fears, appearance, tone of voice, and personality traits. These aren't technically filled out with mine. I have like values and epiphany not filled out, but that's because I couldn't really like think of them at the moment, and I think I want to dive more into the characters before getting to there, just because I think some of like the epiphanies might come with what happens in the story versus just the character. At least that's how I've envisioned it as I was writing this, which you guys might see it completely differently and be like, no, that's not how you do that. That means this, and this, which totally fine. Did help with things like motivations, goals, their conflict, fears. I kind of already knew those because, as I said, I've been sitting with these characters for a while, but it really helps strengthen them. Like, one of my people, his whole goal is to find the meaning of life. He just wants to survive. He doesn't know why he wants to live because he has no one left, but he's afraid of death. So that fear of death has kept him in this survival mode for so long that he is now like, what's the meaning of life? Like, I don't really need to be here anymore. It's kind of crappy out here. Everyone's dead. But because he is so afraid of death, he's not going to go commit suicide or try and die because he's scared of that. And previously, I hadn't really had anything of why this guy was all alone, just kind of doing his own thing. And then I reached that fear of death. So that definitely helped. So I love that. I love that this had that I was able to go through and figure out of this character. The next step was step 7, and it is make a list of key scenes. Write down one sentence to describe each scene. So I kind of did this a little differently because there's only 10 slots on this page, or 2 pages, and like, I could probably make my own, but I was just doing this as it is. So I kind of combined some a little bit in the fact of what was going on. There's one where it talks about 2 characters falling in love and someone dies. And people are probably gonna be like, spoilers! But like, there's a lot of people falling in love in this book, and a lot of people die, so that's what you're gonna get out of that. I'm not gonna tell who or what, but there's a couple that is a couple and one dies. Even though it is kind of stretched across the book of their story, I put it down in that they die part. So I think this part is good for like when you have very little to begin with. You kind of have like your generic beginning, middle, and end. But as I've been sitting with this for so long, I have a lot more to even what I put here. Plus with like 5 possible main point of views, it's a little crowded. And the last step in this method this Snowflake method, this specific one, was to write 2-page summary of what your story is about. And this one I got a little more into detail, but I kind of also more talked about the apocalypse itself and kind of describing what happened and what people are now going through with a little touch on each main character. So overall, this was really fun to do, to sit down and really dabble in it, get to know my characters a little bit more. But I think as prepping for what I'm going to be writing, I don't think it really assisted me much in this case. And I think that's just because I already had so much planned out and so much already structured that this method was kind of just like, you've already gone past this point. Can you come back to it? Wait, what? I've confused myself. Anyway, I think this is a great method if you have just like a briefest idea to really start building upon it, because it does touch upon those beginning building blocks of the story and really getting you to think about your character, what's going to happen, the setting they're in, and whatnot. And I think this is probably a really great jumping off method to do. So maybe I'll try it down the line in a different story that I did not have so much already done on. But as for doing it for prepping for my nano novel, I pretty much had all of this established and done and written up in an outline elsewhere. Definitely think it's a good idea. So if you've got a new idea and you want just an easy jumping off point to get yourself into it, definitely check out the Snowflake Method. I used this one by Imagine Forest. It has the PDF and everything. I'll drop the link down below, so make sure to check it out, because I wouldn't have been able to do this without being led to this link. So I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see what we do for the next one. Bye guys.